Hello and welcome to my channel. So I did a poll on Instagram recently and I asked you all what you wanted me to make next, and you all voted tteokbokki. So that's what I'll be making today. I've made tteokbokki so many times on my page already, but I've never really made a long video explaining all of the ingredients that I use and also going step by step just to really show you everything. So I have a bunch of tteokbokki recipes that I will link below, but as for now, let's start with the ingredients. So the first and most important thing obviously is the rice cake or tteok. So there are three types of tteok. There's frozen, refrigerated, and fresh. Obviously fresh is the best tasting. If you can find fresh rice cakes, buy it. They only really last a day or two, so if you're going to buy it, make sure that you're going to use it soon. You can buy rice cakes at any Korean market, like an H Mart if you have it. So let me show you what it looks like. This right here is fresh tteok. So these are the best tasting tteok if you can find it. They're really soft, but the thing with fresh tteok is that they do dry out really quickly, so you just need to use it almost right away. It's really soft and it honestly tastes good even by itself. It's nice and chewy. These are refrigerated rice cakes. Not only that, but these are actually cheese-filled. So cheese-filled rice cakes are my absolute favorite type of rice cakes. If you can find it, definitely get it. It's like a normal rice cake on the outside and inside is melty cheese. It's like amazing. I love it. As you can see, I can't really bend it like I could with the fresh, but these do taste really good. I've noticed that some brands taste better than others, so if you don't like a certain rice cake brand, I would say try another one, because I've definitely noticed that some brands are way better than others. I've also noticed that I prefer the thick rice cakes compared to like the really thin types. I'm not sure why, but they also cook a lot better when they're thicker. So yeah, I would recommend buying a thicker rice cake if you can find it. Frozen I would use as a last resort since they do crack really easily and they dry out. They're just not really as tasty as fresh and refrigerated. Next, I have the base of my sauce, which is chicken broth. So I'm using chicken broth. You can also use dashi or anchovy broth, vegetable broth, even beef broth, pretty much anything. You can also use water, but water I would say does not have as much flavor, obviously, so you can if you want, but if you want more flavor, use a flavored broth. Next, I have soy sauce. So I'm using Korean soy sauce or kanjang. This obviously you can buy at a Korean market. So the thing with Korean soy sauce is it's less salty and a little bit sweeter than Japanese soy sauce. So if you're using Japanese soy sauce, then adjust your ingredients a little bit. Next, I have gochugaru. This is Korean red pepper flakes. They give like a really vibrant red color. I don't really think they're that spicy. You may disagree with me, but I feel like it's more for taste and color, and it also does provide spice. This is also a little bit pricey. Next, I have my Korean sausages. They're like little mini sausages. Here, let me show you what it looks like. So the thing about Korean sausages is that they are way tastier than anything I've ever found in US. So definitely try to get the Korean sausage if you can. And of course, this is optional. You do not need to use this. But if you do use this, make sure that you cut some slits in it so that it doesn't pop and explode. Next, I have some fish cakes. So here is what it looks like. They come in these little rectangular sheets like this, and all you need to do is cut it. You can do squares, I usually do triangles, but these, you do not want to put these in the beginning. You want to add it towards the end because they should not be boiled that long. It will ruin the consistency and you don't want to overcook these. Then I have some sesame oil and sesame seeds. So these are optional, but I love the flavor that it gives. So this gives like a really nutty flavor, nutty aroma. Sesame oil has a low smoke point, so you want to add this towards the end of your cooking. Usually I'll add it after I turn off the heat and then add just like a little, like a few drops. And then sesame seeds, I usually sprinkle these on towards the end as well. Okay, so when you make tteokbokki, you need to balance the flavors. So you can't have it all be salty. That's why you need sweetness. So I am using oligo syrup And then I also mix this with sugar. Oligo syrup is really popular in Korea. It's kind of like a healthier version of corn syrup. But yeah, I love the flavor that oligo syrup has. You can substitute corn syrup or rice syrup, but I definitely recommend oligo syrup. I use it all the time. And yeah, I think it just makes everything taste so much better. Then you need to flavor the broth and add some color. So these are Korean green onions. I usually cut it in half and then slice it up. And then I'm also using scallions. These, I just cut it into like long pieces like this. So this really flavors your broth. It also gives like a really nice color as well. I add it towards the end. You want it to really soften up, but you don't want it to cook too much. So I guess that's everything. Let's get started. I'm using about a medium-high heat. Now I'm going to add my broth, add green onions for flavor. And now it's boiling, so I'm going to add my gochujang. Probably about this much, a big spoonful. Don't worry about how much broth you put in at first because you can always put in more later if you run out. Okay, I'm gonna just turn my heat down a little bit. Okay, adding my red pepper flakes and a little splash of soy sauce. So it's always best to put in less ingredients first because you can always taste it and add more later, but it's a lot harder to fix it once you've added too much. I'm going to taste it right now. Okay, so it's good. Now I need my sugar. So I'm going to add in a little bit of sugar, then my oligo syrup. Now I'm going to taste it again, see if it needs any more. I think I should add a little bit more sugar. I think it's too savory. I need to balance these flavors. I need to balance that saltiness. Okay, it's good. All right, next step, I'm going to add in my rice cakes. So I'm adding this right from the container. And now you want to bring this to a boil. So I'm going to turn the heat up. And now I'm just going to let this cook for several minutes. So I'm not really going to stir that much in the beginning, but as it cooks and as the liquid reduces, then I'm going to stir the bottom just to make sure it doesn't stick. But as for now, I'll just let it be. So this step right now, it's cooking and it's boiling and it's going to thicken up that broth. If your broth is not thick, then you likely did not boil it long enough. Or you might have added too much broth. Okay, I'm going to add in my sausages. Stir the bottom a bit. So the broth is definitely starting to thicken up a bit, but I do want it a little bit more thick than this. Right, so now that my broth is a little bit thick, I'm going to add in my rice cakes. Okay, I'm going to turn down the heat. It's getting pretty thick now. And then I'm going to add in my scallions. So you want these to soften up. So this is a really quick meal. It usually takes me about 10 minutes to make this. And there are so many variations on how you can make this, and I will link down all of my recipes below. Okay, so I'm at a really low heat. So now I'm going to add in my sesame oil. And then my sesame seeds. And I think it's pretty much done. As you can see, the sauce thickened up really nicely. And it's done. So here is your tteokbokki, my cheese rice cake. So good. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you want me to make next, and I will see you in the next video.